We are so excited to have you with us and hope you enjoy today's presentation. And don't worry about holding on to your questions until the end. My awesome colleagues are standing by in the chat, ready to answer your questions. And since this is an introductory webinar, let's take a couple minutes to talk about the fundamentals of e-signature. Common documents to consider using with RightSignature include, but are not limited to, contracts, non-disclosure agreements, medical releases, expense reports, tax forms, and many more. RightSignature's technology is in full compliance with the 2000 U.S. Electronic Signatures in Global and National Commerce Act and the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act, as well as the European Directive, all of which intended to encourage the rapid adoption of electronic signatures and decrease the use of antiquated paper methods. To qualify as an enforceable electronic signature or e-signature, there must be evidence of the signer's intent to execute or accept the agreement. This is typically accomplished by requiring the signer to take affirmative action, like typing their name or drawing their signature using a mouse, trackpad, or touchscreen. Every document uploaded to RightSignature is bound to a globally unique identifier, also known as a reference number. This reference number is included in all communications related to the document and acts as the document's authoritative identifier for the entirety of its life cycle. I'll point out what the reference number looks like later in the demonstration. Good news! Document recipients do not need to create an account to sign documents online with RightSignature. You may send RightSignature documents to anyone, whether or not the recipient has a RightSignature account. There is no limit to the number of recipients to whom you can send documents to. RightSignature is available in either a ShareFile Premium package or RightSignature Standalone. Depending on their plan type, current customers who have ShareFile can upgrade to ShareFile Premium or add on RightSignature. Doing so will enable the native e-signature capabilities in their document workflows. Now that we've gone through the fundamentals of e-signature, let's dive into a demonstration. Let's get started by going to secure.rightsignature.com and entering in our account name. The account name is also known as subdomain if you have ShareFile. Now for the email address and password, same thing goes. If you have ShareFile, the login credentials will be the same. So looking at the dashboard here, I have two options to start a document. They both do the same thing. I'm going to pick one of them. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to choose Send for Signature. Ultimately, I will be choosing from the computer, but I want to show you how you can access other sources real quick. You can pull in your files from other locations that you want to send for signature. Okay, let's go ahead and choose from computer. I just chose a zip file, so that's not going to work. It's not a supported file extension. Let's try that again. But this time I'm going to drag and drop it in, just so you all can see what that looks like. If I wanted to add another file, this is where I would want to do it. But otherwise, I'm going to prepare this document. I'm going to grab the email address that I created just for this demonstration, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here. Because it's a new email address, it's going to show no results for the contacts in our recent contacts. But once the document is executed, then it will appear in the recent contacts list. You know what? I need to go back for a second. I'm not ready to place fields. I forgot to add myself as a signer. And because there are two signers now, I want to use Set Signer Order. Set Signer Order can be very useful. For example, when sending a document to multiple signers, you have the ability to designate a particular signing order. So in this case, I'm just showing you all how you can change that order by dragging them up and down. You can pull in your contacts list from other locations as well. For right now, I'm going to turn it off. Later in the demonstration, I'm going to show you how to find these options from your settings and integrations. Next, let's place fields. I'm going to click on some got it's. We're going to go over all of that together. By default, the very first field that is selected is the text field. We know that because it has a blue box around it. So what I want to do is place a text field here by left-clicking once. I'm going to expand it. Notice that there are dots on all sides. That allows you to be able to expand it vertically, horizontally, and diagonally. Next, I'm going to place a date field. Let's turn on field detection to show you all what it looks like. As you can see, it didn't work. It didn't work because it needs a box to detect. So it needs to have a line above and below. We are going to place our date fields here, but I'm only going to make 2 of them required. Later, we'll come back and make some date fields optional. Moving on to the signature field now. We have 4 dots for the signature field, instead of the previous many dots. That's because we need to keep the quality of the signature intact. Next, we'll use the initials field. I'm going to go ahead and place it next to the manager and supervisor lines. Actually, I'm going to delete one. I want to make one bigger, that way I don't have to resize both. There, that looks good. Now I'm going to go ahead and place the other initial field box. To make changes to the fields we've placed, I'm going to double-click inside the text box. It's going to give me the option to show more. Notice that multi-line is available. Checking the box for multi-line allows for the signer to input multiple lines of text. The date field has a unique additional option. You have the option for day, month, year versus month, day, year. Let's go back to the date field that I mentioned earlier. I want to show you how you can make them optional. There was a delete button there that I accidentally clicked on. So I need to place that field again. We are looking for field required. That box, I'm going to uncheck it because by default, the signer will be required to fill in all those fields before they can complete the document. What will happen now is that when the signer is going through the document, they'll see all of the fields that you have placed, but they won't be required to fill them all in to complete the document. Later, I'll point out a red tag that your signers can click on to guide them through all of the fields. However, it is going to skip over the optional fields. Now that we've placed all of our fields, I want to go in and actually start changing some of the fields to be the other signer. So by double-clicking inside the box, I have the option to change who it's assigned to. Notice that my box turned blue. This way you can tell the difference between the signers. So I just dropped down a checkbox group. It always starts with 2 boxes. If you only need 1 box, there is the option for checkbox, which would be a single box. I only want the signer to pick one of them. By default, the signer can only pick 1. But you have the option to make it 1 or more. To add additional boxes to the checkbox group, you want to click on the blue Add to Group button. I'm going to go down to the initial fields again. Let's change this one to myself. On second thought, I'm going to delete the supervisor box. And I'm also going to delete the manager's box. I don't need initials there, but I still want to add text to it. So I'm going to use the annotate feature where it says add text. I'm going to type in an additional manager's name. Then I'm going to do the same thing for supervisor. Not that it particularly matters. I want to make sure that the font size is the same, so I need to go back and change this one. Document looks good. I think we're ready to move on to review. Couple of things for us to look at first. The name section. Initially, it's the file name, but let's change it. We can title it whatever we want. Keep in mind that the name section also becomes the subject line in the email that's sent to the recipient. If we want to, we can add a carbon copy. Carbon copy, or CC, gives the viewer read-only access to this document. They will receive notifications, will be able to view progress, and download the completed document. Keep in mind, you can revoke their access later if needed. By default, a link's expiration is 30 days. You can go as high as 365 days, but not a day more. See that I put 366 days and an error message popped up saying that I must pick between 1 to 365 days. Now that I've set the expiration length, I want to turn on passcode. I've not seen many people use the passcode feature because if your recipient doesn't know the code, then you'll have to generate a new one and share that with them. It is a higher level of security, but it can disrupt the flow of a document being signed if the recipient forgets their passcode. It is a similar experience to multi-factor authentication. Thankfully, we can generate a new passcode to send the signer so they can access the document. For those who like to add tags, you do have the option to add a tag. For the message, I'm going to put in something generic. If needed, we can click on Manage. From here, we can change the email addresses of the recipients. As long as the recipient or whomever owns that email address doesn't click on the link inside the email, then you'll be able to change their email address. But if the link was clicked on, then unfortunately for security reasons, there isn't anything you could do at that point. And if that happens, you'll need to void the document and start over again. During our next e-signature webinar, we'll talk about import overlay, which will save you time if you are ever in this situation. Viewers is the same thing as the carbon copy we saw earlier. If you wish to manually send an additional reminder email, click on the Remind button. There is a 30 reminder limit per document for each signer. This includes manual and automatic reminders. Once the limit is reached, the reminder button will be grayed out. This option is only available to the sender of the document. Under History, you can see things like the IP address of the user, what operating system and browser they're using, and what kind of activity took place. For example, I created the document and that's what the activity is. But as the recipient is filling in the document, the history section will fill in with their activities. Under Actions, we have the option to void the document. We also have the option to edit the expiration for the shared link. As you can see, my tag is there, and you can add additional tags. You can also see the message that I included in the email. Currently, we only see the option for original PDF, but once the document is completed successfully, we'll have additional options like completed PDF, signature certificate, and combined PDF. If we wanted to share this document, we would want to click on Share. And from here we can add a viewer, which is the same thing as a carbon copy. Notice from the orange box that says Pending, that's the current status the document is in. From the dashboard, we can see our document and our orange pending icon. Let's head over to our email from RightSignature. First, I want you to observe that it says please sign and return, thank you. If you remember, that is not the original message that I typed in, and there is a reason why. Once we get to the settings section, I'll point it out. Inside the email, there is a blue box that says Review and Sign Document. Let's click on that. I'm going to put in the dates for the required fields. For this demonstration, I want to actually fill in at least 2 of the date fields that are optional. Watch how by scrolling up to the top of the document, the red tag follows. When I click on it, it'll take us to the next required field. I'm using my trackpad to create my signature. But if you are like me, struggling to use a trackpad to draw a signature, then you can type it. I'm going to click Apply. If for whatever reason I need to stop filling out the document and come back to it later, I can click on Save Progress. I'm going to close out this window and go back to my inbox so you can see how easy it is to return to your document. Side note, here's that reminder email I mentioned earlier. You can click on the link in either email to go back into the document to resume progress. And it's going to bring you back to exactly where you left off. So you have the option to use a saved signature. I'm going to try my hand at using my trackpad again. Let's submit. So the document is still pending because I need to sign it. If I were to click on Sign, it's going to give me a pop-up window saying, "We sent the link to sign this document to the email address below. To skip this step in the future, you can verify the email address on your settings page." When one or more of the signers cannot finish the document, but you still want to execute it, Force Complete is available. As long as there is more than one signer in a document, and if at least one signer has completed it, then you can force complete. This will remove all the fields assigned to the signers who have not yet signed, and it will make the document as executed final state. Once this is done, there is no undo. If you have issues force completing a document, you can contact support for assistance. Alright, we're going to move over to our settings. Scroll down until we see verified emails. We're going to add a verified email. I'm going to send the verification to my work email and approve it on my phone. Now that I've added my email address to the verified emails, let's go back to the dashboard. As you can see, there are a lot of documents now in my dashboard. That's because RightSignature combined all of my account's documents into one location, now that I've certified my email address. I'm going to pick one of the checkbox options. Notice that once I clicked one box, a green circle appears with a white check mark. That tells me that I've completed the checkbox group. Now I'm going to try my hand at drawing my name. It would be significantly easier if I signed this document from my phone or tablet. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm using my computer's trackpad. Because I have a long last name, I'm going to type it. Alright, I'm ready to submit signature. Yay, we executed and completed a document. Now we're waiting for the certificate to populate. Now that the certificate has loaded, we can see all of the historical items. There's that reference number that I was telling you about earlier. If you were to ever call into support, you're going to need that number. This is what the signed PDF looks like. The signature certificate, and lastly, there's a combined option, which is both the completed PDF and the signed certificate. If I wanted to delete the document, I would click this button. This will permanently delete the document from RightSignature. Once this is done, there is no undo. Signers and CCs will receive an email with the completed document and signature certificate for their records. It may take a brief moment for the document to disappear from your dashboard. Let's check back in our history section. Looks good. Previously, what said pending is now executed with a green box. I can filter my documents based on pending, completed, expired, voided, and admin view. Admin view is only available for admin users. It allows administrators to view documents sent out by all other users on the same account. You'll know a document is voided when it has a red circle with a slash in it. Okay, let's head back to settings. This section has account-wide settings that only a RightSignature administrator could change. The Account Settings section is only viewable to the ShareFile users with Manage Employees, or RightSignature users with Manage Users Permissions. For RightSignature standalone accounts, only the account owner can manage account settings. For additional security, you can turn on Token Expiration. This will set the expiration length for all emailed links to documents including signing links and share links. After a link has expired, the recipient will have the ability to send a new link to the same email address where they received their initial link. I recommend leaving integrations enabled. So, personal settings are settings that an individual employee user can change for themselves. Reminders are manually sent. If you want reminder notifications to be sent out automatically, you'll want to change this option to weekly or daily. Attaching a completed PDF is disabled for security and privacy reasons. If you were to enable this feature, the completed PDF would be attached to the final notification that is sent to all parties of the document. PDFs that are larger than 10 megabytes will not be included in as an attachment. Under the Signature section is Signature Types Allowed, which allows the employee user to choose what will be allowed. May it be drawn, typed, or both. At the very bottom is Saved Signatures. As you can see, there are a lot of integrations available. The three most important integrations to enable if you have ShareFile are ShareFile Sending, ShareFile Archiving, and ShareFile Contacts. For ShareFile Archiving, it does not work retroactively. There are advantages to initiating a document workflow through ShareFile. For example, if I were to send a document for signature from a shared or personal folder in ShareFile, and the document was successfully completed, then a copy of the completed PDF would be uploaded to the same folder it originated from in ShareFile. If your document workflow doesn't start from a particular folder in ShareFile, then what will happen is that in the employee user's personal folder, a folder will be created called RightSignature. And in there will be your archived completed documents. You can make all of your ShareFile contacts available for document signing. Moving on to customize branding. As you can see, I added some branding here. I have a green background with an 8-bit logo of one of my favorite shows. The Customize Branding section is available to account administrators. The Customize Signer Email section is available to all employee users. Make the signing experience for your recipients reflect your brand. Previously, I had entered in a personalized message with the document I sent for signature. However, when we looked at the email, it did not show the personal message. And that is because I have custom email greeting enabled. It will take precedence over your personal message. So if you have a message that you will be typing for all of your documents, then you can go into your settings and add that message to your custom email greeting. That way, you don't have to worry about putting in a personal message every single time you send a document. Notice that there is an image preview of what one of your emails would look like. As you make changes to the Customize Signer Email section, those changes will reflect in the image preview. Briefly, let's look at reports. You can view data for your sent documents. This includes, but not limited to, how long it typically takes to get documents signed, as well as how many documents have been completed by month. In our next webinar, we'll cover advanced features. This concludes my demonstration. Let's move on to Q&A.